Recently I heard a story of a black mother whose son was shot unjustly by a white policeman, and he died a few days later. And in the middle of her immense grief, she was asked if she would donate the heart of her son to a white man. And she said, yes, because I know that I want my son to continue this mystery of life and death in the human race. Sisters and brothers, we've got to ask ourselves, what is the life that this woman had access to that most people don't? Why is it that these kind of extraordinary human beings emerge here and there and everywhere in all of history? That's what we're talking about today. I know we think this is a one-time anomaly, miracle about Jesus. No, Jesus is naming the miracle and revealing the miracle that is everywhere all the time. Jesus is a statement about how reality works. It isn't a miracle as much as it is a relationship. Now stay with me. No one has ever trusted in the Lord and been put to shame. That's a line from the Psalms that was quoted by so many of our saints. And it reveals what we're talking about here. In fact, the correct way to speak of this feast is not to say Jesus rose from the dead, as if it was a self-generated miracle. The correct way to say it is Jesus was raised from the dead by the Father, so that he could be revealed as the map, the blueprint, the promise, the pledge, the guarantee of what is happening everywhere. He's the standard bearer. What you say about the Christ is what you're saying about reality, all summed up in one person. And if you can switch your minds to think that way, then we realize what a universal and momentous feast we're celebrating. And then we have to ask what I asked at the beginning. Why is it that some people access this risen life, this larger life? And to be quite honest, if we are to look at our country today, most people don't. The vast majority of people might come to church even today for the first time in 6 months and celebrate Easter. And they think they're cheering that God worked a great miracle. It's not a miracle we're talking about. It's a way of relating to reality, and Jesus exemplified it. If you'll allow me to read something I wrote a few years ago. I wrote 3 paragraphs, one about death, one about grace, and one about resurrection. Let me read a little from each. Death is not just physical dying, but going to the full depth of things, hitting the bottom, going the distance, beyond where I am in control. And in that sense, we all probably go through many deaths in our life. And that's the tipping point. What are you going to do at that point? The vast majority of people turn bitter, look for someone to blame, and close down. So their death is indeed death for them, because there will be no more growth after that. Now, when you go into the full depths and depth of anything, even, ironically, the depths of your own sin, you come out the other side. And you know when you come out the other side, like this woman did, you know you've been led there, taken there. You're inside of a larger space. You're not holding on any longer. You're being held. You're being held by a larger force, by a larger source that is not your own. That's what it means to be saved. It doesn't mean that you go to church. It means you've walked through the mystery of transformation. This feast is the big one. If you don't get this, you don't get Christianity. And somehow, the miracle of it all, if we are to speak of miracles, is that God has found a most ingenious way to transform the human soul. He uses the very thing that would normally destroy you, the tragic, the sorrowful, the painful, the unjust, the impossible deaths that lead us all to the bottom of our lives. And God uses what would destroy you to transform you. There it is, in one sentence. And if you're not prepared to trust that, to say, even this, Lord, you're in it. That's what Jesus was doing, leading up to his final words, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. So Jesus is a statement of how reality works all the time and everywhere. And he teaches us that there's a different way that you can live with your pain. There's a different way that you can live with your sadness. There's a different way you can live with your suffering. You can say, woe is me, and feel sorry for yourself. Or you can say, God is even in this. And that's apparently what Jesus did on Friday. And yesterday, the Sabbath of Sabbaths, was a great day of waiting and wondering and ifing. What if? Could it be? There always has to be that gestation time where we struggle in the darkness, where nothing appears to be happening. In that same passage, if I can find it again. Something or someone builds a bridge for you in the darkness. And it's recognizable only from the other side, that you have been carried across. From all that we hear from reputable and reliable sources, no one is more surprised and delighted than the traveler himself or herself. Something or someone seems to have filled the tragic gap between death and life. That's what you're all waiting for. Every religion in one form or another was asking the question, why does everything end? Why does everything end? Your life, my life, your marriage, your children. This building won't be here in 50 years. Every institution, every country passes, changes. Every empire that was here is gone. And so we founded religion out of this longing to make something last, to make something eternal, to make something real. But none of us crosses over this gap by our own effort, our own merit, our own purity, our own perfection. We are carried across by an unearned grace. From pope to president to princess to peasant, worthiness is never the ticket, only deep desire. And I'll bet you all have that. The ticket is given in the desiring, and the tomb is always finally empty, just as Mary Magdalene discovered it this morning. Death cannot win. You're finally indestructible when you recognize that the thing which could destroy you is the very thing that will enlighten you. What can destroy you now? Nothing. No one has ever trusted in the Lord and been put to shame. And Jesus taught us how to do trust. Jesus taught us how to do love. Jesus taught us how to do hope. So now you know what we mean when we say we are saved by the death and resurrection of Jesus. All we can do is somehow ride on his coattails. Let me end, as I think I've ended in some past Easter sermons, with that marvelous E. E. Cummings poem, I thank you, God, for this most amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees, and a blue, true dream of sky, for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today. And today is the Son's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and of wings and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. Sisters and brothers, may this, our greatest feast, open your eyes and open your ears to see what is happening all around you, all the time, everywhere. God has one and only job description. God's job description is to turn death into life. There it is. That's what God does. That's what God does. That's what God does with every new springtime, every new life, every new season, every new anything. God is the one who always and forever turns death into life. And no one who has trusted in this kind of God will ever be put to shame.